Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled to dive into this one today because we are unpacking one of the absolutely biggest, most shocking scandals in gaming journalism history. Literally, a scandal that directly affects what games we play, how we spend our hard-earned money, and, who we can actually trust. Think about it. We're looking at a world where AI creates a game, AI reviews that game, and then bots promote it. So where does the real human gamer fit into all of this? Nowhere, right? Today, we are breaking down the exact moment the dead internet theory stopped being just some fringe conspiracy and became a terrifying reality for the gaming industry. Now, I have to tell you about this totally hilarious but honestly terrifying file name that was discovered, ChatGPT image Oct 202025. This was the actual smoking gun. Back in February 2026, a massive Reddit whistleblower leak blew the lid off the fact that major US gaming media outlets were secretly using large language models to write all their reviews. They were literally fabricating fake journalists complete with AI-generated profile pictures. And the kicker? The outlet's management was so careless they left this exact auto-generated file name on the profile picture of a supposed experienced analyst named Brian Marigold. Spoiler alert, Brian didn't exist. He was just a prompt. So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the initial whistleblower leak, the rise of these fabricated journalists, the super shadowy world of digital bribery, the stark reality of the dead internet, and finally, what the future actually holds for gaming journalism. Let's get into it. Starting off with Section 1, the whistleblower leak, and exactly how the source code was exposed. So why on earth would trusted outlets do this? Well, it all comes down to some pretty brutal math. A human gaming journalist costs up to $80,000 a year plus benefits, right? But an AI system, it can pump out an unlimited stream of reviews for just about $2 per article and API calls. That is a 99.997% cost reduction. Crazy, right? For companies like ClickOut Media, which is the SEO agency that actually acquired these sites, the temptation to just transform them into AI content mills was simply too overwhelming, completely regardless of the cost to their actual credibility. Which brings us right into Section 2, fabricated journalists. This is what happens when algorithms start playing pretend. Think about the totally systematic fall of Video Gamer. They used to be one of the UK's most respected gaming news sources. In late 2024, they were acquired. Fast forward to February 2025, and about 20 real human staff members, people with literally decades of combined experience, were just unceremoniously fired. But the site didn't shut down, no. Instead, by October, fake X profiles were popping up for non-existent writers, like our good buddy Brian Marigold. And they didn't just quietly use AI. They actively left trust statements up, claiming these bots were human gaming experts. It was active, deliberate deception, and it ultimately led to Metacritic banning them entirely in February 2026. We really need to compare some of this text because this perfectly illustrates what the industry calls AI slop. The contrast here is just wild. Listen to this fake AI review for Resident Evil Requiem. It calls the game a chainsaw-revving, blood-soaked testament grabbing the franchise by the lapels. I mean, it's so bombastic and cliché, it could apply to literally any horror game ever. Notice how it never actually mentions the combat system? Now, contrast that with a real human review. The new parry system feels responsive. Watch for the telltale shoulder twitch before attacks. See the difference? That is specific, mechanics-driven insight from someone who actually held a controller, died to an enemy a bunch of times, and learned the game. But if AI is writing the reviews, how do game publishers make sure those reviews are actually, good? Let's dive into Section 3, digital bribery, where tokens are the new cash. You see, this whole situation creates an invisible threat. Publishers are bypassing traditional, traceable cash bribes by offering something called processing tokens. So instead of handing over a sketchy briefcase full of money, game publishers are providing these AI-powered outlets with free API access and totally skewed positive training databases. It's a wildly sophisticated form of algorithmic manipulation. By following these steps, publishers get total plausible deniability. They just hand over the API and the data. The AI model naturally trains on this highly curated, super positive game info, and then, shocker, it automatically spits out favorable reviews. And nobody ever had to explicitly say, hey, give us a 9 out of 10. In fact, internal memos leaked during the scandal literally stated that this token-based incentive provides plausible deniability exactly because it falls completely outside traditional anti-bribery statutes. The legal frameworks just haven't caught up to this reality yet. And this whole thing scales up to something truly terrifying. Moving to Section 4, the dead internet reality, or what happens when AI just talks to AI. The dead internet theory is absolutely no longer just some fringe conspiracy from the dark corners of the web. Over half of all written content online, 57.1% to be exact, is now generated by artificial intelligence in some capacity. And in the gaming industry, that loop is already closed. Think about it. An AI helps procedurally generate a game, an AI reviews it, bots promote that review on social media, and then another AI analyzes the sentiment of those bot responses to design the next game. Human participation is just completely bypassed. And when Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, the guy arguably most responsible for advancing generative AI in the first place, publicly admits that the dead internet theory may not be entirely off base, man, that is a massive red flag. When the actual creators of the technology are pointing out the overwhelming presence of bot-operated accounts, we urgently need to stop and pay attention. So who actually gets hurt by all of this? Well, pretty much everyone. Gamers lose trust. Actually, 68% of gamers now trust user reviews over professional ones, which is a total flip from just a few years ago. Real, passionate journalists are getting fired and replaced by $2 API calls. And indie developers, the ones who spent years pouring their actual hearts into a game, they are completely sidelined because they simply can't afford to hand out digital processing tokens to secure good reviews. Ultimately, gaming culture just loses its passionate human soul, turning into this hollow simulacrum perfectly optimized for engagement metrics. So where do we go from here? Let's hit Section 5, the future of gaming journalism, and look at 3 potential scenarios. Based on current industry trends, we are basically staring down 3 possible futures. First, there's a 30% chance of optimistic regulation, where strict laws step in and force transparent labeling. Then there's a 50% chance of realistic coexistence. This is where humans still write the core premium reviews, but AI handles the quick summaries for casual readers. And finally, there's a 20% chance of complete AI dominance. That is a really dark scenario, where 85% of content is AI, the internet is entirely closed off to real human insight, and game quality just plummets because developers start optimizing exclusively for algorithms instead of real players. To survive in this wild new landscape, you really need a smart gamer's guide. So how do you protect yourself? Well, always look for specific gameplay details and constructive criticism. Look for those weird colloquialisms and random bug mentions that prove a real human actually held the controller. Definitely verify writer profiles to make sure they have an actual real-world track record. Rely heavily on video reviews, which are way harder to fake. You can also install browser extensions like AI Warning for Steam to flag suspicious text. But most importantly, vote with your wallet. Financially support independent, transparent human journalism whenever you possibly can. I am going to leave you with this final thought to ponder the next time you browse a game review. We are at a historic turning point right now. Are we going to fight for a living internet filled with real, passionate human voices? Or are we going to just surrender to a dead internet run entirely by algorithms? The battle for the soul of gaming journalism has officially begun. So, which side are you on?